match week 11 of the English Premier League. Wow. Burnley versus Everton is the early kickoff. It's 19th versus 8th. Burnley have lost 6 of their opening 9 league games now. We've been talking, Des Corkill, about clubs with glass ceilings. And I know you don't have a lot of sympathy for Burnley. You think they should go now. But they are on the way out, aren't they?
They'll fight. They'll be rugged. I'm not a fan. The reason I'm not a Burnley fan is because I don't think they've tried to develop. I don't think Sean Dyche has tried to develop the formation from a solid 4-4-2, lump it up to the centre forward. They've tried the odd winger here and there, but they haven't developed a style of play that has improved themselves. And so I don't think they are worth paying the subscription fee. That is now my rule of thumb for clubs in the top flight, because they get paid such a vast amount of money. There is a duty of care for them to entertain. I know, Craig, I know. You don't agree. But there is that duty of care. So if Burnley aren't going to play ball, then take your ball somewhere else and let somebody else in who will try to play proper football. So if they don't change their style of play, I will say good riddance to bad rubbish. I hope Everton do them. I'm a red, but I hope the Blues do Burnley, simply because of that fact that Everton are now trying to play football. There are a mixed bag of results at the moment. If Burnley continue to just be rugged and solid and difficult to beat, get out of this league.
Yeah, they're finding scoring a problem, Burnley. They've only scored 2 goals in their previous 8 games. Everton.
Can I come in, Ross? Can I just come in on this? A little bit of sympathy for Sean Dyche, not in terms of the way he plays his football, but the lack of spending power. And this is on the eve of a proposed takeover, £200 million takeover by an American group. And the owner of Burnley is hanging out for this money, and he doesn't want to spend because that's going to come out of his own pocket if he buys players. So he's taking the risk of putting them in the relegation zone by not spending, not buying players, while he waits for this sale to go through. So this is why Sean Dyche has fallen out with his chairman. He's had no money to strengthen the team, hardly bought a player in the window, and it's all about this deal. And the guy wants to pocket the 200 million and say goodbye. So I do feel a little bit of sympathy for Dyche there.
But this isn't a new thing, Bob. This is not a new thing. I've been saying this about Burnley since 2017.
Yeah. Yeah, and the chairman's got to think, hey, if you're going to sell a championship club next season, what's the point, right? You've got to stay up. Which is a bit, I mean, I did a business degree.
What would you do, Ross?
Well, I'd buy some players.
Let's your money, Ross? Would you spend your money to buy players?
To keep my club in the division, yeah. Because I know they're going to be devalued if they get relegated.
So it's Burnley. It looks like they need 7 or 8. You'd spend about £50 million of your money.
Yeah.
Seriously?
I'm assuming I've got at least 200-300 million. But yeah, absolutely.
I am coming over to your place. Your large yes.
Well, I mean, if you own the club, surely you'd want to ensure that they play in the top division, and you have to spend to do that. Even
if you don't buy top players, there is the money ball. There are loads of very good promising players who'd love to.
They have a great record of, getting players on the cheap and selling them at a very high price. So there is money there. The club have generated a lot of money from TV revenue, from player sales. But when you look at, the money, has it been reflected into purchasing of players or new players? It hasn't. No. They've rarely, splashed out the cash. You look at some of the teams that have come from the Championship. Remember Fulham a couple of years ago, 100 million straight away. Villa, I mean, God knows how much they've spent in the last 2 years. But these are clubs who have come up, who have owners who are willing to part with that kind of cash to ensure they stay in the division. Now, I get where Des is coming from. Yeah, the football's not pretty and everything. It's worked for them. But now, when you're down to your bare bones, I mean, they're using kids these days in the Premier League. I mean, they have to resort to that. They're struggling. I think it was last season, they struggled to even get a bench. When after the league resumed, They couldn't even get a full bench out.
And
that was because of
£150 million broadcast money. You can't get a bunch. Don't get that.
No. Well, the players left, didn't they? Because their contracts expired.
Yeah.
And that's why they couldn't get a bench. So I mean, if you have owners willing to part with a little bit of cash to help your manager and your team out, well, it's going to make the world of a difference, isn't it?
All right, we will get the violins out for Sean Dyche just for a little bit, for a little while.
Not all of us.
Well, a small one from Des, a tiny violin. All right, quick look at Everton then, Des. I know you like laughing at them, but they've lost 4 of the last 5. They looked a good team when they were leading the way earlier on.
So the giggling was because there was such a malarkey about when they went 4 wins in succession, and they almost celebrated winning the league. And so the gigglers happen because they're finding out that you don't win a league after 4 matches. But they're a good side. I do like them. They're a little bit inconsistent, which is very Carlo Ancelotti. He likes consistency. He likes winning. He likes being near the top. A lot of it seems to depend on whether Richarlison and James Rodriguez are playing and are in the mood to play, because they're the ones who make things tick. Defensively, they could concede less. That will happen. I'm sure they'll tighten up. But their success will depend, I think, on the 2 South Americans up front and their continued fitness and their continued output.
All right, there's yet to be a draw, interestingly, between Burnley and Everton. Everton lead 7 wins to 5 in Premier League history, Des, before you jump on your horse. 8:30 p.m. kickoff, that one. Burnley versus Everton. Moving on then to Man City, who are 11th, taking on 17th place Fulham. Let's start with Fulham. They had a nice shock on Monday. Nobody would have predicted a 2-1 win at Leicester, Bob Holmes, but Scott Parker's boys went there. They even scored a penalty, don't you know?
Yeah, that was a historic moment, wasn't it? Actually, I think they've got a slight chance because they went out and did something in the transfer window. I mean, they tried to shore up their defence. They bought 2 centre-backs. Adebayoraibo, I think his name is.
City,
yeah, used to play for City. So he'll be playing against his old club here and probably wishing he wasn't. But also Anderson, they got Anderson as well. And they look slightly more solid at the back. Not that I don't think they're going to be solid enough to keep City out, but I think compared to some of the others down there, including Burnley, they've got a fighting chance of staying up. But this really does look. Having said that, it still looks like lambs to the slaughter here, doesn't it?
It does. Going
to the Etihad against a Man City that has cruised through in Europe. I got 5 last week very easily. And if ever they're going to get over their goal drought, here's another opportunity. You would fancy whoever they picked to get 1 or 2 here. If they don't, I mean, if Fulham get something out of this game, then I would say that City have got a bit of a problem. But they managed to rest 1 or 2 players. It was the usual mix and match in midweek. So there will be some fresh legs. Aguero didn't even travel. I suspect that means they're keeping him back. They may not risk him against Fulham. They may think they can get the job done without him, but he may be on the bench as a bit of insurance. But we're talking about him as if he's the ultimate insurance policy. Well, on his record, he is. But he's getting on a bit, and he's getting more and more injuries. And for a club like City to be relying on one man as much as they are, I think it is a bit concerning. Gabriel Jesus has not quite delivered, not as much as we thought. When he first appeared, he looked sensational. And then he had a couple of serious injuries, and he's not been quite the same since. So, yeah, a little bit concerning. But I don't see any other result other than a fairly comfortable City win.
They increased their goal tally by 50% last weekend with that 5-0 win over Burnley, Man City. Will they fill their boots, Craig Marias, against Burnley this weekend? For me, Bernardo Silva's been off the pace, and that has been crucial for City this season.
I think it's against Fulham that they're playing. Ross?
Sorry. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the problem with City this season, that I think Des highlighted earlier when he was covering the Champions League, but, you know, they struggled for goals. I mean, we're so used to seeing Pep's teams, you know, create, you know, chances galore, quality like Aguero on the end of it to finish it. They've obviously missed Aguero. As Bob said, you know, Jesus is not right up. But, I mean, Sterling's got off the ball a lot. Silva, like you mentioned, he's been in and out of the team. Phil Foden, who's been arguably the best player so far this season, still can't consistently get into that first 11. Now, when we talk about that first 11, it's been chopping and changing every match. There hasn't been a settled 11. And, you know, it goes back. I mean, it's when new managers come in, you know, you can understand the uncertainty. You don't know who his best 11 is. But Pep's been there for what now, 4 years, something like that, 4 or 5 years. You've got to know your players. You've got to know who your best right back is. You've got to know who your best left back is. Given, yeah, you're going to have injuries here and there, but I just think, you know, you look at the centre back position. You know, I think about a year ago we were talking about Laporte and how essential he is to that City defence. He hasn't played the last 3 matches and he's been on the bench. So I think there's still a lot of like tinkering going on with that. You know, they call it Pep roulette. I mean, you just never know who's going to start. Phil Foden can go away with England, score 2 goals, you know, and 4 days later find himself on the bench. Score midweek in the Champions League, find himself on the bench. There's no consistency. There's no fluidity in that team, and I think that's got a lot of, you know, that's got a lot of reason to it, because that's where City find themselves. You know, they're struggling at the moment, struggling to score goals, and struggling to move up the table. So until that changes, until the players know exactly what they're doing, they're not going to get any sort of consistency, any sort of form really going. Saying that, you know, like the boy said, I just can't see a Fulham upset. I thought Fulham did very well to upset the odds against Leicester early this week, but I mean, you just can't see it again. You just can't.
Fulham are looking to register back-to-back Premier League wins for the first time since 2013. Go on, you Fulham. It is a Saturday 11 p.m. kickoff, Man City versus Fulham. Right, West Ham in 5th take on 9th place Manchester United. Yes, you heard me right. West Ham in 5th. Sunday 1:30 a.m. kickoff this one. The Hammers are up in 5th because on Monday they beat Aston Villa 2-1. And interesting article, Bob Hobbs, I was reading in Football 365 saying, with that win, David Moyes could actually move out of the friend zone with West Ham fans.
Yeah, he's got his mojo back, hasn't he? And in most unlikely circumstances. I mean, they were among the favourites to go down, believe it or not. And of course, all the unhappiness with the fans, even though he had saved them from relegation previously, they weren't happy with his appointment because they expected him to condemn them to 0-0 draws at best, and you know, some not very exciting times. But he's actually got the best out of quite a reasonable bunch of players. And he seems to have the team on his side, which he hasn't always had. And there are no mugs. He's 1 or 2 players there quite decent. I think 5th flatters them. I don't think they'll finish 5th. I don't think they'll even get into Europe. But mid-table, I think any West Ham fan would have been very happy if you'd said at the start of the season they're going to finish mid-table. They would have bit your hand off with that. So, and there's possibility of Antonio coming back, isn't there, this weekend?
Yeah. He played against Villa. He started.
He did start. He didn't play 90 minutes, though, did he?
Came off after half time.
Yeah. So they're easing him back. He means a lot to them. I think it was quite a discovery putting him up front. He's a guy that can play literally anywhere, but I think he's most effective up front because he's such a powerful guy. He's a handful for any defenders, and he's scored a few goals. So that's being without him hasn't had the effect we thought it would have on West Ham. They've continued to get results. So with him back, who knows what they're going to do? So this could be a test for United, especially the United central defence if he's playing. I think Lindelof and Maguire are going to have their work cut out. So and not to mention David De Gea. So very interesting game. This. What a pity there'll only be 2,000 fans there, because they for this. They might even manage to make a noise in that stadium. But on the issue of fans, I agree with Des about the game generally. And although there's obviously a lot of hunger for the game now, and the fans are desperate to return, and even when it's when they're back to normal, I think when it's full, their grounds will be full for a while, because of the novelty of the game. It's bound to happen. But I do seriously worry about this cheating, turning off fans. I know personally, among my friends, many who don't want to watch the game anymore because of the cheating and VAR mainly, the combination of the two. VAR was supposed to sort out the cheating, but it's not. It's made it worse, if anything. So I think it's worth mentioning that this expected influx of fans, yes, it will happen, but will it last when the novelty has worn off and we see what sort of a game we've ended up with?
Yep. Baby steps. 2,000 back first. All right, let's look at Man United then, Craig. United are unbelievably going to try and better their current record of 8 victories on the road. So they're better away from home. Don't talk about their form at Old Trafford. But they're going to this one with a few injury problems. I understand Rashford's got a shoulder injury. Mine goes back to Brian Robson. Last time a Man United player had an important shoulder injury. A bit before your time, maybe, Craig. But tough one. What do you reckon?
No, that's all right. I do think he did. Oh, well, he did come off midweek. But he walked straight down the tunnel. He seemed to be walking fine. I think it's just one of those where, United really need to wrap him up in cotton wool, ahead of the next 2 matches. You've got West Ham, you've got a big match against Leipzig on Tuesday. So I think it was more protection more than anything else. I do expect him to play against West Ham. I wasn't sure what type of injury it was. Just finding out, hearing from you, that was his shoulder. But I expect him to be fit. I agree with Bob, with what Bob says. I think it's going to be a good test for that United defence up against Antonio. I think West Ham have improved leaps and bounds since the start of the season. Let's not even talk about the last couple of years, but since the start of the season, remember they had a torrid start, and then obviously David Moyes went off with COVID, and his assistant stepped in and started them on this amazing winning run. I like Jared Bowen. I think he's going to be a real threat as well. He's a very talented player, quick, runs at you. But for me, the man who's improved the most is Declan Rice in the middle of the park. I think he's just improved this game all round. And yes, that comes with playing for England on a regular basis, at international level. But also playing in the Premier League week in, week out. I think he's added a little bit more to his game. I thought when he had Mark Noble alongside him, he was very restricted, very, he's just, win the ball and pass it off 5 yards. There wasn't much to his game. Now we're seeing him impose himself on the team. He's become a real leader with that captain's armband.
Yep.
I think this is going to be a really, really good match for United. It's going to be a tough match for United. I expect United to continue their away form and get to 9 away wins, but it's going to be tough. I really do think it's going to be tough.
Set you up nicely for that. West Ham 5th against 9th place Manchester United, Sunday 1:30 a.m. kickoff. Very quickly then, Chelsea in third, Leeds United in 12th. This one is your Sunday 4 a.m. kickoff. Last time they met was May 2004, Des. Brings back memories, this one. I expect it to be full-blooded, but I'm thinking Chelsea and Leeds of old here.
Yeah, when I was growing up, this was one of the ones where you'd watch behind the sofa with your hands in front of your eyes because there were so many fouls. The infamous 1970 FA Cup final, the most watched game in English football history at 32 million, even more than the World Cup, different eras, of course. But a referee subsequently said there would have been, I think, 6 red cards and 18 yellows in that particular match, in that replay. That's what it used to be about. Bring it forward to this generation. It's nearly 40, 50 years on, and it'll still be full-blooded because Bielsa has his team going. Chelsea, I think Chelsea are there to stay because they've sorted things out defensively and they've got attackers who can score from all over the pitch, and they've got N'Golo Kante. Yeah, he is so important. He's been revitalized. I don't know. Well, he was put out of position for a year and a half. Now he's back, and it's no coincidence that the team is ticking around that man. Chelsea, I think, are a real contender. I'm looking forward to this one, though. Won't quite be back to the 70s, but it'll be fun.
Leeds will have to, I mean, their gegenpressing has to be superb and 90 minutes long, Bob Holmes, if they're going to stand a hope.
Yes, it has. I don't see them stopping Chelsea. Actually, I agree with Des here. I think Chelsea are genuine title contenders. I think on paper, when you look at all the sides now, with Liverpool having about 7 first-team members out, Chelsea have probably got the best side on paper, regardless of who they pick. I mean, when you think of the surfeit of riches that Lampard has got, I mean, at the beginning of the season, we were talking about this being a problem. I don't think it's much of a problem when you've got virtually world-class players you can juggle with, an excess of top international players at your disposal, and you're juggling with them. You've got enough games to keep them all happy. I mean, Giroud started that game in midweek. Yeah. So, yeah, what a squad. And now they've sorted out the goalkeeping situation. And as Des says, Kante is back to his proper position. They look formidable. They really do. They're going to end up with silverware this season. I don't think there's any question about it.
Well, the Sevilla coach...
I wouldn't go as far as to pinpoint which one, but they'll get something.
The Sevilla coach came out and said, he's played all the top English sides recently. He's come out and said Chelsea have the best attackers, period. Full stop. That's it. Chelsea Leeds then Sunday, 4 a.m. kickoff. It is going to be a cracker. Fans are going to be allowed back into the Tottenham Stadium. Now, Craig, looking at Spurs first, on Thursday, it was a 3-3 draw against Linz of Austria in the Europa League. Jose's managing his side really well. Harry Kane was missing, but apparently he should be all right for the weekend.
Yeah, I think he'll be doing everything he can to be fit for this one. It's the North London derby. You know, he's a player that played for Arsenal when he was a little bit younger. Obviously moved on and is achieving great things with Spurs. So yeah, he definitely want to be get himself fit and everything for this one. I don't think there's any doubt. I think there's a little small aspect of mind games here from Jose, as you'd expect. But what a match this is. Spurs absolutely flying under Mourinho right now. Arsenal over recent weeks not quite hitting the heights under Arteta. Is this where the tables have turned? A lot of criticism towards Ole and all that, but Arteta, no experience, got given the job, and started off fantastically well. Obviously won the FA Cup last season, but now this is the real test. It's a new season, players aren't performing, and this is where the going gets tough. It's all right when it's all rosy, as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer found out prior to getting the job. And when the going gets tough, do you have it in you to dig deep, to change the system, to drop certain players.
Yeah.
And this is a good test for Arteta. Yes, Arsenal had a good result in the Europa League as well, but Premier League form suggests that they're struggling a little bit, and lack of goals is a big concern.
Yeah, absolutely. They need to transfer, Des. They need to transfer that Europa League goal scoring form into their league form. Now, I mean, Craig's absolutely right. This game's massive. If it's another defeat for Arteta, suddenly, question marks. Will he even last the season, etc., etc.?
Yeah, come back, Arsene Wenger have been saying that Arsenal are so sure of their identity at the moment. They wear blue for their home games. Did you see that in the Europa League last night? Arsenal, who play in red and white, do not know what colour kit they wear at home games. This, I think, is the opportunity for Tottenham and Jose Mourinho to actually put a dagger into Arsenal, because the difference in confidence levels between the two sides is chalk and cheese. Tottenham have the ability, when Jose lets them off the leash, to score from all over the pitch. Arsenal are reliant upon Aubameyang, or Lacazette got a good one. They scored a couple of nice goals yesterday. But I was an Arteta fan at the start. I thought he'd done things well. I thought they'd got them organised, but then suddenly they haven't. And so I'm not one for calling for people's heads. I'm certainly not. But you're quite right. This could be a distinctive moment. This could be a mid-table Arsenal finish. One personal little point, by the way, of the 2,000 fans going in, I was best man to 3 people in my life. And the lad who I was best man to is a big Tottenham fan, and he's got 2 of the tickets. What? And he will be cheering behind his mask for Tottenham on Saturday. Him and his boy Josh, who did an internship with Malaysia Football League last year. So I hope they do well, and I'm expecting somebody to shout out Malaysia Belay from the Tottenham end.
And just on that, Ross, quickly, we've seen it in the past. There have been North London derbies where Spurs have been absolutely flying, going into it as favourites, but Arsenal somehow just managed to come away from it with a win. If there is one match to get their season going, this will probably be it. I don't think neither of the players need motivating for this one. It's such a big one, and I think you talk about the confidence levels, and yes, it's very low at Arsenal. But just imagine if they win. Just imagine that is the game that restarts their season. It could work both ways. It really could. But Spurs go into this as massive favourites.
They do say throw the form book out when it comes to derbies. Tottenham versus Arsenal is Monday, midnight. That one kicks off. Liverpool against Wolves at 3:15 a.m. Kickoff. Actually, when Wolves met Arsenal earlier, there was a massive head injury. We saw David Luiz and Raul Jimenez. In fact, Raul Jimenez fractured his skull. He's recovering well, nice to say, through his operations, and he's recuperating. But that's a horrible sight, Bob. I mean, there was blood everywhere, and they were head bandaged, and you've just felt for them, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you do wonder about Jimenez's future, don't you? Fractured skull. I mean, with all the attention now on head injuries, I mean, he's basically talking about dementia was a completely different thing, but it's still the head. And you wonder, as a centre forward, a rampaging sort of old-fashioned centre forward who's good in the air and meets crosses with a powerful head, whether he's going to be the same player. I mean, it's a hairline. I understand it's a hairline job. So possibly he can come back, but you wouldn't blame him if he was a little bit nervous going up for the first cross, would you?
Yeah.
When he does. So, I mean, and players have had less serious injuries than that and not been the same. So really, fingers crossed for him, because he's a great player. I think he's a great guy. I mean, there was talk of him being almost in the 100 million category last season, rumors about Real Madrid and all that. I mean, he is very, very good. I think 100 million is probably a little bit high, but a much sought after centre forward, and at the peak of his powers, and to get that serious injury like that is a bitter blow. Let's just hope that he can be the same again, because Wolves, they're already not the same, are they? They're missing Diogo Jota, they're missing Traore because he hardly ever plays, and they're not quite the force they were last season. So if they lose him, it's going to be a serious blow. Doherty was injured the other night, wasn't he? Of course, they got rid of him to Spurs. I still think of him as a Wolves player somehow. Podence has been very good for them, and they'll give Liverpool a good workout. But I think Liverpool's confidence will have been boosted after that midweek win over Ajax, and I think they should safely get through this one.
Yeah, they working on dropped points last weekend at the MX, Des Corkill. Liverpool will be looking for a win. Last season was a 1-0 win to Sadio Mane scoring the goal there. Do you think it'll be kids again? Do you think it'll be a mixture of kids, or is everyone fit and ready to come back?
No one's fit and ready to come back at the moment. Liverpool are right down to the bare bones. Kelleher will probably get the start in goal. Neco Williams is probably going to get the call at right back. Joel Matip was number 3 of the centre-backs, but now he's the linchpin because Fabinho is injury-prone. Even Andy Robertson got a knocker in midweek, and he received treatment, but I hear he's okay. In midfield, there's issues as well because James Milner, I think, is still out. So it's down to the bare bones for Liverpool, running on air. That's why Jurgen Klopp's reaction after the win over Ajax was so extreme. He was running on, hugging everybody, and he's called it one of the great nights, European nights, at Anfield, simply because of the circumstances. I think it's remarkable that Liverpool are still joint top of the table on points, are still in the Champions League, going in guaranteed a place in the round of 16, considering those injuries. Any 3 of those injuries would have been bad, but I think it was 9 potential first-team starters were out for the match against Ajax, and it's not going to get easier because the games come thick and fast. And Wolves are good. The one silver lining for Liverpool is Jimenez won't be there because he is such an important part of what Wolves are all about going forward. I see this one as really, really difficult. Liverpool need their front 3 to be firing on all cylinders.
I don't know.
VAR's robbed them of 4 points already this season, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, Liverpool have dropped 6 points from winning positions this season. That's 1 point more than the entire of last season. But that's all thanks to VAR. Craig, you could just see Diogo Jota getting the winner here for Liverpool, don't you? Because football is fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just written, isn't it? Jota to, do something that really affects this match. Look, I think despite all their injuries, you talk about squads. Des goes on about squads and how the money spent. There should be no excuses for Liverpool here. I think some of the boys that are coming through. We've seen, obviously, we talked about the goalkeeper, Callahan, but, Neco Williams is, plays for Wales. Curtis Jones, he's come on, really well over the last 18 months or so. So you talk about really talented boys here that, deserve, they're not being thrown into it. I think someone like Curtis Jones deserves his place, playing in the Champions League, playing some big games for them. Don't forget, he did score the winner against Everton in the FA Cup as well. It's not an easy game to go into. This was pre-COVID. So, a full-packed stadium, scores an absolute belt into the top corner. You're talking about a really talented kid here. Liverpool, despite all their injury concerns and this, that, the other, I think they're still massive favourites. Wolves still haven't hit the heights of the last 2 years. Nuno's obviously changed a few things here and there, sold a couple of important players. And I think their philosophy, their style has changed as well. They're a lot more defense-minded these days. And now without Raul Jimenez, I think it's a big, big problem. They don't really have a replacement. They have Fabio Silva. He's a young kid. I think he's about 17, 18 years old. Too young to lead the line for me. So I think you're going to look at someone like Pedro Neto maybe playing up front, Adama Traore possibly. I mean, I think they're really short on options up front. So I think this is a Liverpool win. Then go on, Ross. Jota to score.
It all points to a home win. And Liverpool versus Wolves, 3:15 a.m. kickoff. Brighton in 16th take on 6th place Southampton. Tuesday, 4 a.m. kickoff. It's a South Coast derby. Let's look at the home team first. Brighton, hard-fought point against Liverpool. Lucky, I guess, last time out. But they've got Tariq Lamptey back, Bob Holmes, this week. And that's big for Brighton because a lot of good attacking play comes from Tariq Lamptey down that right-hand side.
It does. He's so good that we wondered whether Chelsea had let the right player go. But Reece Williams is doing pretty well too. Reece James, sorry. Outstanding talent and a great purchase for Brighton. They do make some astute buys. They never pay big money, but they do pick some decent players, don't they? And we have to mention Danny Welbeck, I think. I mean, his goal scoring record is not very good. In fact, I looked it up and it was even worse than what I thought. I mean, it's not. It's about one in 12 games or something, for a striker. But I mean, he does look the part, doesn't he? I mean, that run last week.
Yeah.
I mean, great, powerful running and a deft touch at the end, to a layoff. I mean, he's made a difference. He's made an impact there. I mean, he won't get that many goals, but hopefully for Brighton's sake, others will, because he has proved that he's still got it in him.
Yeah.
I mean, to be a decent sort of Premier League player. In the lower half, but I mean, he was never going to be a Man United striker. So Brighton, with their astute management of Graham Potter, I think they could well survive another season. And this is going to be quite a good game to watch because you've got another very astute manager in Hassan Hüttl at Southampton.
Yeah.
So it'll be a tactical treat. This.
Absolutely. Took the words right out of my mouth. Astute as well, Hassan Hüttl. Southampton are going great. In fact, Hassan Hüttl wins 52% of his points for Southampton away from home. They're unbeaten in their last 8 against Brighton in South Coast derbies. They've got the upper hand here, and all this without their talisman up front, Danny Ings. That's some feat, Des Corkill.
I'm a little bit mystified by everyone bigging up Southampton. They threw a 2-goal lead against Man United and completely ran out of steam in the last half hour. So, they're doing pretty well, but they're near the top of the table. But they're off the back of a defeat that could be stunning. If you're that good, you beat Man United, wow, things keep on going. If you let it go in such spectacular fashion, and it wasn't unfortunate, United caned them in the second half, then you need to just think, oh, okay, maybe there's a reality check coming in for Southampton because they are without Danny Ings, their 20-goal scorer from last week. They are now a little bit more vulnerable. They do rely on James Ward-Prowse, and he can't pick out 2 set-piece deliveries like he did against United every day of the week. So I think there might be a coming down to earth for Southampton. As for Brighton, you know what? I was just looking at the table. I was astonished to see they've only got 10 points because I really liked the way that they played. Even though the circumstances of the result against Liverpool were fortunate, they played well against Liverpool and probably deserved a point. And I'm amazed to find them so close to the relegation zone. For some bizarre reason, I had them up somewhere mid-table mentally. So I think Brighton for this one to actually just continue a downward trend for Southampton after that United debacle.
Yeah, trust Des Corkill to bring someone back down to earth. It's so unlike him. who are you leaning towards, Craig? Southampton or Brighton?
Yeah, very rare that I do this, but I'm actually going to go with Des. I know where Des is getting at in terms of looking at Brighton. I've watched probably more Brighton games than I should have this season. And they're good to watch. They are very good to watch. They play good football. They don't make it easy for teams. And obviously, I saw their first match, I think it was against Chelsea. I saw the one against United where they were very unlucky. They were very unlucky against Chelsea. They lost that match, but they played Chelsea off the park. Same with the Liverpool match. I thought they're very unlucky. So they've played well in games. They just can't see out games or close games. And whether it's for the lack of for missing penalties, for missing chances, letting in soft goals, conceding penalties, for one reason or the other, in terms of conceding or finishing a chance, it hasn't really gone for them, and that's why their points haven't really tallied up, and that's why they find themselves where they are. I still think they'll be all right this season. I really do. But something's got to turn around for Graham Potter and Brighton, I think, and I think it'll start this weekend. They're a good footballing team. Des talks about those lower end teams who don't play football. Brighton play football.
Yeah.
They do, I just feel that they might actually start their season and get some points on the board against Southampton, and then maybe go on a few games run to just get them up the table where I think they should belong.
All right, that's your Monday night game. Brighton in 16th, Southampton in 6th, Tuesday, 4 a.m. kickoff. A couple of other matches, just very quickly. West Brom in 18th against Crystal Palace in 15th. Palace boss Roy Hodgson has won 10 of his 24 Premier League matches against clubs he's previously managed in the competition, Des. Anything to say about Roy Hodgson?
Absolutely nothing.
Sheffield United in 20th against Leicester in 4th. It's a Sunday, 10:15 p.m. kickoff. Jamie Vardy has scored 7 of his 8 Premier League goals this season away from home. He's probably going to find the net because Sheffield United certainly can't. That is your Matchweek 11 Premier League. Many thanks to the guys for helping me preview it. Enjoy the video. Bye for now.